Good evening. Welcome to VATV. Today is March 19, 2014. My name is Mary Tran, along with the resident of Dorchester, Mr. Huan Tran, and we'll be asking questions, and I will be the main co-host. So VATV is the voice of Vietnamese American from Greater Boston area. You can follow our program live on every Wednesday night from 7 p.m. To 8 p.m. on BNN TV, the network via the cable Comcast Channel 9 and RCN Channel 15, and also online at www.bnntv.org. This evening's program will be repeated on these days. Sunday at 5 p.m., Monday at 1 p.m., and Tuesday at 11 a.m. So for today's program, we would like to invite you to join us on this very exciting conversation with the candidate for the 5th Suffolk District, Mr. Barry Lawton. So please call in if you would like to ask the candidate any question. You can call in at 617-708-3290. And this is a live show, so you can call in and ask our candidate anytime. So, welcome, Mr. Barry Lawton.
It is my honor to be here.
Okay. Is it okay that we address you as Barry?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. My friend here and your resident, Mr. Huan Tran, have some questions for you.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Barry. Would you please tell us a bit about yourself first?
Well, I am originally from South Carolina. Born on Fort Jackson, South Carolina. My father was a career military man. He fought in Korea, fought in Vietnam, was a battalion commander in Vietnam. And I had the honor with my 3 sisters and mom moving around and traveling around different parts of the world. So that helped me identify at a very young age with many different cultures. I came to Boston as a student in the mid-'70s, and I ran track on scholarship and got very involved in local politics from a very young age, and continued my career working in the State House, in the legislature in several capacities, working in the executive branch for Governor Michael Dukakis, and have been very active in my community. Also, I had the honor and privilege of teaching the young people in the city of Boston for nearly 25 years as a high school history teacher.
I see.
Very good.
Do you have any? Okay, so why are you running for the state representative? And then I also learned that you used to run before.
Yes, I have run in previous years, and each time I've done better. I believe my message is resonating, which is why in the last election it was so close. I lost by 41 votes. But I felt it was important to have voices there. And I was motivated to run from my first job in 1978 as a legislative aide. I felt that there was much power there and an opportunity to provide change. So I spent my last 30 years becoming skilled to be a legislator, also to be able to communicate with many different cultures and to take action on things that were needed.
So what have been a few key issues of your concern, and if you were elected, how would you address those concerns?
Well, I think many of the issues are interrelated. I believe that for me, the number one concern that I have is leadership, is bringing people together and providing leadership and motivation for our people in the Dorchester area.
Right.
We are the lowest voting district out of 160 districts in the state. And some people believe that's because of apathy. Partly that is true, but we have the most diverse district, one of the most diverse districts in the state.
Right.
And it's very difficult, challenging to find a unity of purpose.
Right.
And I believe that I've laid a very good foundation in my community with the Vietnamese community, with the Cape Verdean community, African American community, the Latino community. And it's not just a foundation that I'm laying in a short campaign or in any campaign. It's a consistent way that I have been all of my life and all of my time, my 33 years in Dorchester.
So who were you the aide for previously?
I served as a legislative aide for Royal Bullen Jr., who represented Mattapan and parts of Dorchester.
Okay.
I served as the legislative assistant for the Black Legislative Caucus.
I see.
I served as assistant director of personnel for Governor Michael Dukakis.
I see.
Press secretary for State Senator Diane Wilkerson, and communications director for Boston City Councilor Garrett Saunders.
I see. So you've been doing this quite a long time.
I have. I've been very active in Democratic politics. I
Yeah.
served on the Democratic State Committee for 12 years.
Yeah.
So I've been very active in the party.
So I tend to be a little bit more talkative here, so, unless you want to stop
Maybe
me.
you should run.
No. So now, knowing Dorchester, safety is one of the huge concern. Do you see that as an issue? And
You know,
tell me your
I
view
have
about
to
that.
tell you about an experience that I had on Tuesday,
Yeah.
where I was just about to leave my home,
Yeah.
and there was a shooting. We heard shots. There were 20 shots fired, and a car crashed directly in front of my house.
Wow.
So it meets close to home for me. But over the years, I've lost many students to this violence, many young people that I have mentored to this violence. And when you talk to the parents who have lost children, it's a hurt that you never get over, and it impacts their lives. And when you look at the number of people that are killed, young people that are killed, many of which are in our neighborhood, if you add them up over the last 10 or 20 years, it's a staggering amount. And that is a ubiquitous or ever-present pain that they feel and that I have felt. And I believe that their voice and their concern and their hurt needs to be heard on Beacon Hill. And that's why I'm running, and that's why I'm looking forward to going to Beacon Hill and making that voice heard in the most loud way as I possibly can.
Have you been working with other coalition or and the law enforcement area?
Well,
in order to address this
the one
before?
thing that we've had in our community is a police department that's very responsive. Our Meeting House Hill Civic Association, there was always a community officer there to talk about the crimes that are concerned to our people, alerting us to where there are particular problems. And nowadays, when something happens, there are numerous cars that show up to respond. I think that's very important. But we should also understand that the police are there to protect us and to prevent crime, but the people that prevent crime are us. And we need to understand that that code of silence, every time we are silent when something happens in our neighborhood, it impacts us and it impacts our children. As a father of 13-year-old twins, I'm very concerned because had the children not been off school on Monday for Patriots Day, that would have been the time they would have been returning from school. So this is a problem that has plagued us and a problem that has had much of my attention and will have my attention in the State House.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now something more positive.
Okay.
Okay. Dorchester and
Do we have
especially.
I'm sorry. Do we have a caller calling in? Yeah. Oh yes. Okay, caller, welcome. Please ask the question.
Yes, my question is, how is this candidate going to fix the Boston public school system?
Well, the legislature has a great impact on the Boston public school system as well as school systems across the state. We have seen legislative reform with the Legislative Reform Act of 2003 and 2010 greatly alter the impact of the legislation of education. One of my major concerns is the teaching for a test. And teaching for a test is setting a very limited goal. I believe that we should have standards, but I believe we should also have well-rounded education that teaches the arts, that teaches social sciences. And especially in my community, where assimilation is important, we have to be able to teach tolerance and reform. We need to rid our school of those who are just looking to have a job and look for those teachers and administrators and principals that understand their responsibility is to prepare our young people. I would look to alter the legislation reform acts of those years I think there needs to be more scrutiny on our schools, and I believe our schools need to be of a higher standard. So I will be very vocal. I believe I know what does work in the system and know what doesn't work. And I will make sure that the legislators, I don't know how many former teachers are up in the legislature, but I can tell you that the voice of the teachers, the voice of the parents who want superior education will be heard.
Great. Caller, do you have any more questions? No?
Thanks for answering my question.
Okay, thank you for
Thank
calling
you for
in.
the question.
Yeah. So now, knowing how diverse Dorchester community is, so do you have any plan in terms of addressing diversity, especially when you get elected?
Well, I actually have some experience in that. In the early 80s in Dorchester, there was a very horrendous murder of an African-American man. And it brought the community together, people that had not sat side by side ever. And people in our community came together and they formed a group called the All Dorchester Sports League. And this was a league that brought people of all cultures, and what we did was fund athletic sports. And one of the requirements was that the teams had to be diverse. And I had the honor of being chair. When I arrived at that organization, we had a little over 400 members. At my departure, after serving as chair for 6 years, we had nearly 4,000. So there was a unity of purpose for one goal, winning the game. Didn't matter what color, but I think that prompted many movements towards diversity and addressing diversity. I also had the honor of serving for 10 years on the board of directors of the Daniel Marr Boys and Girls Club,
yes, yeah.
which also is one of those areas where cultures come together to have fun.
Right.
And I think that we started that at a very young age, and we've made great progress in Dorchester. We need to have much more, but seeing the interaction, the use of businesses, the eating of the restaurants, they were understanding that the Vietnamese community and culture, and Cape Verdean community and Spanish culture are wonderful cultures that offer many things that enhance our total quality of life.
Right. Thank you. So you have any questions?
Dorchester, and especially Phil's Corner, has been home for more than 15,000 Vietnamese Americans. And more than 200 Vietnamese Americans run business along Dorchester Avenue. So if you are elected to be the state representative, what will you do to build further Dorchester as a destination for culture and business?
Well, I'll continue to do what I've always done, which is patronize those businesses and support them. I would like to initiate a Buy Dorchester, Buy Roxbury program where people from outside of the community can come into our community and enjoy it. We are a working class community. We have some of the best restaurants with the most reasonable prices there. We have businesses that offer products that many people don't know about. I'll give you an example. There's an oil, an ointment for joints and arthritic conditions. As I've introduced that to other people, they come in to buy it from that. So I would promote businesses. They are viable. They make our community in Fields Corner and Dorchester Avenue lively and lit. And I would hope to expand and support and provide capital for the small businesses to increase their employees, to expand where they need to, and to modernize where they need to.
So do you have a Vietnamese staff to volunteer?
I have a very small paid staff, actually about 2 people that are paid staff. But I have a number of people that are very committed to my staff, to my campaign, a number of people that have been very active in the Vietnamese community for many years. And we've had great collaborations on numerous campaigns. So the expertise that I've brought to the community is to help empower the community, is to help them and guide them through this very complex maze of politics. And I understand my responsibility to the Vietnamese community, as well as all the communities, is to be the gateway to state government whether it's referring people to the proper agency, whether it's referring people for a job, or whether it's promoting business and providing capital. I will be there to address those concerns, and I will work with other elected officials from Dorchester to do that.
So again, I'd like to hear what would be your 3 top priorities to focus on?
You know, the number one priority for me and the best social program is a job, is employment. That instills self-esteem. It gives the ability to have upward mobility, provide for your family, and meet the responsibilities. I think from that, education is the top priority. It's a key. We know that that has advanced civilization since antiquity. So I believe in providing superior education, public safety, and criminal justice. Many people in our community are impacted by the criminal justice system as far as fairness and the disparities between the majority population and minority populations. That's very important to me. Transportation and infrastructure. In some parts of this district, the transportation system was better 75 years ago. We can no longer tolerate second-class service in our community. Immigration issues is a very important a matter. As a state representative, I would support immigration laws and legislation that allow for assimilation into our system. I could not directly impact a federal program, but I certainly can be loud and vocal about expediting the process, which has been slow in language and has made many people, too many people, live in the shadows. I think that the people that live here and contribute here should be recognized, and they should have that support from me. Our veterans, and you know, as I told you earlier, my father was a lifetime military person. They have fought for our community. They have given us the freedom that we have, and we need to extend those services and support for all of our veterans. Homeless and homelessness. As you know, in Dorchester, the cost of rents are going up, the cost of housing is going up, the homelessness is going up. I will do everything in my power to allow and expand affordable housing and to allow and support programs that will allow owners to stay in their homes. There are many issues, they are very interrelated, but those are some of my top priorities.
Good, that's great. So we have 2 minutes left. Just quickly, what kind of leadership style could you comment on?
Well, I think the most important thing is exercising the strength of Dorchester. Dorchester is 1/3 of the city of Boston. If it were a city by itself, it would be the 4th largest city in New England. We have a lot of power. If we bring together all of our state representatives and state senators and had them commit to bringing other legislators together, we could flex a muscle that could pass or defeat any legislation. And there are many communities, Vietnamese communities across the state, in Lawrence and Lowell, Springfield, Holyoke, Worcester, New Bedford. They have common goals with us. If we work together, we could actually influence legislation that impacts the whole state. So I look at providing a leadership style that brings people together for a purpose other than pretty pictures and for action.
Great. One last message to our audience. What would you say in 2 seconds?
In 2 seconds, I would say the status quo must go. I am a change to the status quo. Please help me April 1st. And check out my Facebook and webpage to contact me. My personal phone number, 617-794-9855. I give my personal number because my door and my phone will be opened to the people that I serve.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you
luck
for
to your
having me.
campaign. So please contact us at VATV. The email is vatv@vata.org, or you can call at 617-822-3717. If you have any suggestions, we would love to have your feedback. Thank you very much and have a good evening. We look forward to having you back again on next week's Wednesday. Thank you and have a good evening once again. Thank you.